Hello, night travelers, those quiet souls who wander beneath the darkened sky, seeking a moment of calm amid the long symphony of the night. Welcome back to the Night Observer, a place where thoughts may finally rest, where comfort replaces urgency, and where sleep arrives gently, carried by the vast and mysterious universe above us. Tonight, the fire is lit once more. We gather again around its warm glow, listening not to noise, but to stories. Stories written in starlight and silence. Let us lift our eyes to the sky and allow ourselves to drift into the immensity of the cosmos. Take a slow, deep breath. Feel your chest rise, then ease as the weight of the day quietly slips away. Let the warmth of the fire guide your thoughts outward. Imagine your mind as a small boat, floating effortlessly across a dark, velvety ocean of space, where distant stars weave an endless tapestry of reality. Tonight, our journey does not end with the familiar arms of the Milky Way. Together, we will venture into one of the most enduring mysteries in human history, the world of unidentified flying objects. There is no need to analyze or remember anything. Simply allow these words to flow like a soft stream of light, carrying your thoughts gently through the void. Let your breathing slow with each sentence, easing you toward rest beneath the eternal glow of the stars. Welcome to tonight's reflection, definition and nature, when a name becomes a mask. The first mask, from flying saucers to UFOs. In the darkness of the unknown, humanity has always felt compelled to name what it cannot yet explain. Naming is not only a tool for classification, it is often an attempt to tame fear itself. In the late 1940s, reports of strange objects in the sky startled the world, and the press quickly clothed these mysteries in a familiar geometric image: flying saucers. The origin of this enduring phrase can be traced back to June 24, 1947. On that day, Kenneth Arnold, a businessman and amateur pilot, was flying near Mount Rainier in Washington state when he reported seeing 9 unusual objects moving in formation at astonishing speed, nearly 1,200 miles per hour. Struggling to describe their motion, Arnold said they moved like a disc skipping across water. Newspaper editors, whether through misunderstanding or dramatic flair, transformed his description of motion into one of shape. And so, disc-like movement became disc-shaped craft. Thus was born one of the most powerful cultural symbols of the 20th century. The term flying saucer became the first mask, narrowing public imagination to a single form, even as eyewitness reports described a wide range of shapes: cigar-like forms, teardrops, spheres of light, and objects without any clear geometry at all. By 1953, the United States Air Force recognized that this image was misleading. Captain Edward J. Ruppelt, head of Project Blue Book, made a deliberate decision to remove that first mask and replace it with a broader, more neutral term: unidentified flying object, or UFO. Ruppelt later explained that the military required a name flexible enough to include objects of any shape, size, or performance, without unnecessary implication. The nature of UFOs, between knowledge and illusion. In its true technical sense, a UFO is not a spacecraft, nor evidence of extraterrestrial life. It is a condition of knowledge. It describes an observed phenomenon that remains unidentified after careful examination by qualified experts. Nothing more and nothing less. Yet in the public imagination, the term UFO has long since been claimed by other meanings. Since the 1950s, it has become almost inseparable from the idea of visitors from other worlds. This reflects a deep psychological pattern. When confronted with gaps in understanding, the human mind instinctively fills them with expectation or fear. Philosophers have described this as the alien of the gaps, a modern echo of the ancient God of the gaps. Where earlier civilizations saw divine forces behind storms and eclipses, Modern society imagines distant intelligences behind unexplained lights in the sky. UFOs, then, act as mirrors. They reflect the anxieties of their time. During the Cold War, amid nuclear dread, UFOs were imagined as silent observers, warning humanity of its own destruction. In our current era, marked by artificial intelligence, autonomous systems, and renewed space exploration, they are often interpreted as reconnaissance devices or advanced surveillance technologies. When the name changes, the rise of UAP. In recent years, another name has quietly taken its place in official language: UAP, or Unidentified Aerial Phenomena. More recently still, the term has expanded to Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena, encompassing events not only in the air, but also in the oceans, or even within space-time itself. Why abandon a name so deeply ingrained in public consciousness? Part of the answer lies in destigmatization. The term UFO carries decades of association with conspiracy theories, sensationalism, and academic ridicule. By adopting UAP, scientists and military personnel can report unusual observations without fear of dismissal. At the same time, this shift serves another purpose. Calling something an object suggests machinery, structure, intent, construction. Calling it a phenomenon gently redirects attention toward atmospheric physics, plasma effects, or optical illusions. It allows institutions to acknowledge anomalies without committing to conclusions about their origin. A deeper reflection: UFOs as scaffolding for curiosity. Imagine yourself drifting in a space where old assumptions no longer apply. In this sense, UFOs are scaffolding for human curiosity. They force us to confront the limits of what we know. Official investigations, including Project Blue Book, reveal that the majority, roughly 80 to 90%, of reported sightings can be explained. Bright planets like Venus, secret military projects, weather balloons, satellites, optical mirages, and psychological effects, such as pareidolia, all play their part. And yet, a small remainder persists. 5 to 10% remain unexplained. These cases occupy the quiet shadows of inquiry. Reports from trained military pilots describe objects that accelerate beyond known limits, transition seamlessly between air and water, and evade both visual and radar detection. Here, the definition of UFO brushes against the boundaries of modern physics, hinting at possibilities humanity has not yet learned to articulate. Now, as these names, UFO, UAP, and the masks they wear, begin to fade from your thoughts, allow a sense of calm to settle in. You do not need an answer tonight. UFOs themselves remind us that the universe is vast, patient, and incomplete in its revelations. The cosmos has always been there, silently guarding its unanswered questions. We are young beings on a small world, still learning how to name the stars and the occasional travelers that pass quietly overhead. UFOs are like a brief flash of lightning across the night sky, striking, unforgettable, and just beyond our reach. Whether they are natural phenomena or messages from elsewhere, they remain part of the great story we continue to write together, here, beneath the endless sky. Night travelers. Tonight we turn our gaze far beyond modern telescopes and radar screens. We descend into one of the oldest mysteries known to humankind, the faint and persistent traces of unidentified flying objects that appear to echo across the entire span of civilization. Welcome to Echoes from the Past, Ancient UFOs. Strange visitors in ancestral memory. In the long darkness before scientific understanding, humanity has always tried to name what it could not explain. The term UFO, Unidentified Flying Object, was formally introduced by the United States Air Force only in 1953, replacing the more emotionally charged phrase, flying saucer. Yet the phenomenon itself, strange objects moving silently through the sky, has been recorded for far longer, reaching back at least to the 3rd century before Christ. Ancient people had no language for extraterrestrials or spacecraft. They interpreted the unknown through the frameworks available to them: mythology, religion, and spiritual belief. Brilliant streaks of light, glowing discs, or objects that moved against the wind were called gods, messengers from the heavens, or divine omens. From Egypt and Babylon to India, ancient texts speak of fiery chariots in the sky, vehicles that defied the technological imagination of their time. Battles among the clouds. One of the most striking historical accounts of a large-scale aerial phenomenon occurred in Nuremberg in the year 1561. In the early morning of April 4th, residents of the German city reported witnessing a terrifying spectacle overhead. Blood-red, bluish-green, and black spheres, along with large disc-shaped and tubular forms, appeared to engage in a violent aerial conflict. According to eyewitnesses, these objects collided, scattered, and in some cases fell toward the ground, trailing smoke. The event was recorded by the artist Hans Glaser in a detailed woodcut, preserving the scene as it was understood at the time. From a modern scientific standpoint, skeptics suggest this may have been a sundog, an atmospheric optical phenomenon caused by sunlight refracting through ice crystals. Yet questions remain. Why would a sundog be described as a structured battle? Why were objects reported to fall and burn? A remarkably similar event recorded in Basel in 1566 deepens the mystery, suggesting that some spectacles in the sky exceeded the descriptive tools of their age. OOP arts, objects out of place in time. Archaeology has uncovered artifacts whose sophistication seems strangely misplaced in their historical context. The Antikythera mechanism, recovered from the depths of the Greek Sea, is a 2,000-year-old device capable of predicting planetary movements and eclipses with astonishing precision. Essentially, an ancient astronomical computer. Its complexity has led some to wonder whether advanced knowledge was somehow passed down from an unknown source. The Sabu disk, a 5,000-year-old Egyptian artifact, bears a shape reminiscent of a mechanical component or propeller. Though officially classified as ceremonial, its aerodynamic form continues to puzzle modern engineers. The Saqqara bird of Egypt and the Quimbaya artifacts of South America resemble modern aircraft or gliders, while mainstream science identifies them as stylized representations of animals. Wind tunnel tests have demonstrated their surprising aerodynamic stability. Prophets, myths, and visions. Sacred texts also carry fragments of unsettling imagery. In the Bible, the prophet Ezekiel described a fiery cloud containing strange beings and wheels within wheels, shining like polished stone and capable of moving in any direction without turning. Since the mid-20th century, some researchers have interpreted this as a surprisingly technical account of an encounter with advanced machinery. The Book of Enoch tells of the Watchers, 200 beings who descended from the heavens, imparted forbidden knowledge to humanity, and fathered the Nephilim. Within the ancient astronaut framework, these figures are seen as interstellar visitors who interfered with human development. In Indian epics, such as the Mahabharata, flying machines known as vimanas are described as traveling at immense speeds, emitting beams of destructive light and powered by mercury-like substances, descriptions that feel unsettlingly modern. Images etched in stone and paint. Long before writing, humans recorded their experiences on cave walls. In Australia, Italy, and among the Hopi and Zuni peoples of North America, figures known as kachinas, star beings with rounded heads and helmet-like features, appear repeatedly in ancient art. Even during the Renaissance, mysterious objects found their way into religious paintings. In Madonna and Child with St. John, a disc-shaped light appears in the sky as figures below gaze upward in wonder. In Carlo Crivelli's The Annunciation, a focused beam descends from a circular object above, interpreted by art historians as divine symbolism, yet seen by others as something more technological. Marks on Earth and humanity itself. The mystery is not confined to stories and images. It is etched into the land. The Nazca lines of Peru, vast geometric shapes and animal figures visible only from the sky, remain one of archaeology's great enigmas. Some propose they served as ceremonial paths. Others suggest they may have functioned as markers or runways for aerial visitors. Elongated skulls discovered in ancient Egypt and the Paracas region of Peru add another layer of unease. Though commonly attributed to cultural practices of cranial binding, they continue to fuel speculation that ancient humans sought to imitate beings they perceived as divine. Now, as images of Ezekiel's wheels of fire, the sweeping Nazca plains, and the silent figures painted on stone begin to fade from your thoughts, allow a deep calm to settle within you. Perhaps we are children still waiting for a greeting from a wider cosmic family. Or perhaps we are simply travelers learning to understand the shadows of our own past. The reality beyond us need not be frightening. It may be a patient and forgiving presence, preserving fragments of history so that we may reflect, wonder, and dream. UFOs, whether natural phenomena or traces of an intelligence beyond Earth, remind us of the quiet grandeur of life in a vast universe. Like layers of sediment drifting across a boundless ocean of darkness, they carry memory, possibility, and unanswered questions. Mystery or truth, they remain woven into the great story we are all writing together, here, in the stillness between the stars. After our long journey through the echoes of ancient civilizations, we now step quietly into the modern age, a time when the traces of UFOs no longer belong solely to myth, but begin to leave marks in official records and collective memory. Welcome to The Age of Flying Saucers, from Arnold to Roswell. You don't need to remember names or dates tonight. Let these stories drift like a slow ribbon of light, carrying your thoughts gently into the vast silence. Allow your breathing to soften with each sentence, as the desert night and its legends form an eternal halo around you. A moment that changed language. Kenneth Arnold and Mount Rainier. Our story opens on a clear afternoon, June 24th, 1947. Picture yourself seated in the cockpit of a small aircraft, gliding calmly above the snow-covered peaks of Washington State. The pilot is Kenneth Arnold, a businessman, but also an experienced aviator, flying near Mount Rainier in search of a missing military transport plane. Then, without warning, a brilliant flash catches his eye. Arnold looks to his left and sees 9 unfamiliar objects moving across the sky in a diagonal, ladder-like formation. They travel at a speed that defies the limits of the era, between 1,200 and 1,700 miles per hour, faster than any aircraft then known to humankind. They have no tails. Their shapes resemble sickles, or perhaps large, dark wings cutting through the air. Yet what truly altered history was not what Arnold saw, but how he tried to explain it. After landing in Yakima, he told reporters that the objects moved like discs skipping across the surface of water. A simple metaphor, one meant to describe motion, not shape. But newspapers, whether through misunderstanding or a hunger for drama, transformed his words into something far more concrete: disc-shaped objects. And just like that, the phrase "flying saucer" was born. It spread quickly, becoming a linguistic mask placed over every unexplained sighting in the sky. Arnold himself initially suspected secret American military projects, but when the military denied involvement, a quiet discomfort settled in. If not ours, then whose? Roswell, when the legend fell from the sky. Only weeks later, in early July of 1947, another event unfolded, this time in the vast, silent desert of New Mexico. It would become the most enduring UFO case in history. Imagine a violent storm tearing across the desert night. Lightning splits the darkness. Thunder rolls like distant explosions. When morning arrives on July 2nd, ranch manager W.W. Brazel walks his land and discovers something strange, a long trail of debris scattered across the ground. There are strips of rubber, fragments of tinfoil, light wooden beams, and tough, paper-like material. Ordinary at first glance. Yet later accounts from those who handled the debris describe something unsettling, materials that could not be burned, could not be cut, and returned to their original form after being crumpled, as though memory were embedded within the metal itself. Brazel brings pieces of the debris to the local sheriff, who contacts Roswell Army Airfield, no ordinary base, but home to the world's only atomic bomber squadron. Major Jesse Marcel, an intelligence officer, is sent to investigate. Then, on July 8, 1947, the unimaginable occurs. The U.S. Army issues a press release stating that a flying saucer has been recovered. The headline of the Roswell Daily Record reverberates across the world. RAAF seizes flying saucer on a farm in Roswell. Silence, rewritten. The truth, however, lasts less than a single day. Within hours, senior officers at Fort Worth intervene. General Roger Ramey steps before the press and announces a correction. The debris, he says, belongs to a weather balloon equipped with radar reflectors made of aluminum and wood. Major Marcel is instructed to pose for photographs with the balloon fragments. The story dissolves, and for the next 30 years, Roswell slips quietly into obscurity, until the late 1970s, when witnesses begin to speak. Some, like Glenn Dennis, an employee at a local funeral home, claim to have seen small coffins brought onto the base and to have heard accounts of beings with large heads and pale gray skin recovered from the wreckage. In 1995, the U.S. military offers a more detailed explanation. The debris, they say, came not from a weather balloon, but from Project Mogul, a highly classified program using balloon arrays to detect Soviet nuclear tests. The reported alien bodies, they add, were crash test dummies used in later experiments. Yet the questions remain. Why the immediate reversal? Why the silence? Why the secrecy? Roswell is a black swan. Roswell was more than an incident. It was a black swan, a moment that quietly fractured public trust. As Professor Avi Loeb later observed, the swift invocation of secrecy under the National Security Act of 1947, signed only weeks after Roswell, suggests not the management of curiosity, but the containment of perceived threat. From that moment forward, a pattern emerges. Discovery, acknowledgement, denial, classification. Placed in its historical context, Roswell occurred as the Cold War was taking shape. Military leaders feared advanced Soviet technology or remnants of German wartime research, or perhaps something else, something entirely beyond their control. Silence in such moments can be protection or confession, a message from the forgiving darkness. Now, as the sunlit slopes of Mount Rainier and the wind-scoured plains of Roswell slowly fade from your thoughts, allow a deep calm to settle in. The age of flying saucers, whether born of secret reconnaissance programs or distant star systems, offers us a quiet lesson in humility. We are still learning how to read the sky. The universe remains vast, patient, and forgiving, guarding its unanswered questions with gentle indifference. Let the whispers of the past ease your mind. Let your breathing fall into rhythm with the slow pulse of space. The truth may rest in sealed archives, but tonight, the only truth that matters is this moment of rest. Here, beneath the eternal halo of the stars. Following the Roswell incident of 1947, a veil of concealment and denial quietly descended. Yet the universe, it seemed, had no intention of remaining silent. Welcome to Unmistakable Evidence, a passage through a series of startling moments that compelled scientists and governments alike to confront an uncomfortable reality about UFOs. Radar over the Capitol, the Washington Flap, 1952. After Roswell, The U.S. military sought to calm public concern by labeling flying saucers as nothing more than weather balloons. But in the summer of 1952, at the very heart of global power, Washington, D.C., an event unfolded that made denial increasingly fragile. On the night of July 12th, air traffic controllers at Washington National Airport observed something extraordinary. 7 unidentified objects appeared on radar, displaying flight characteristics that defied known physics. They drifted slowly, almost lazily, and then, without warning, accelerated to speeds exceeding 7,000 miles per hour, far beyond the capabilities of any aircraft of the era. Radar was not alone. Pilots in the air and witnesses on the ground reported brilliant orange lights streaking silently above the White House and the Capitol, leaving the nation's most guarded skyline exposed and vulnerable. Public pressure mounted quickly. Reports surged, from just 23 incidents in March to 148 by June. In response, the U.S. Air Force held its largest press conference since World War II. Officials suggested that temperature inversions had caused radar anomalies. Yet pilots who pursued the objects, including those flying F-94 interceptors, described something far more troubling. Each time they closed in, the targets vanished, only to reappear moments later on radar at a different location. One conclusion was difficult to escape. These were not stories, nor illusions, but physical objects capable of entering and leaving the most heavily defended airspace on Earth. Electronic silence, the Tehran incident, 1976. If Washington was a public display, the Tehran incident of 1976 revealed something even more unsettling: technological dominance. On the night of September 19th, a luminous object was reported hovering over Tehran. The Iranian Air Force scrambled 2 American-built F-4 Phantom II fighter jets to intercept it. As the first aircraft approached, its communication and navigation systems abruptly failed, forcing an immediate retreat. The second F-4 pressed on. As the pilot locked onto the target and prepared to fire an AIM-9 Sidewinder missile, he flipped the firing switch, and the entire weapon system went dead. In that moment, the object released a smaller luminous body that moved directly toward the jet. The pilot dove sharply to evade it, only to watch the smaller object circle the aircraft calmly before rejoining the larger one. Detailed reports were forwarded to the CIA, the NSA, and the White House. Unlike many UFO cases, this record remains largely unredacted. It describes a craft with no wings, no engines, yet the ability to neutralize advanced weapon systems at will. Footprints in the Forest, Rendlesham, 1980. Science demands physical traces, and in December 1980, Rendlesham Forest in England provided them. Near 2 of NATO's most sensitive air bases, RAF Bentwaters and RAF Woodbridge, professional military personnel reported a triangular metallic object landing in the forest. Some claim to have approached close enough to observe unfamiliar symbols etched into its surface, even to touch the craft itself. What followed could not be dismissed easily. Colonel Charles Halt, the deputy base commander, led an on-site investigation, documenting events with a handheld audio recorder. His team discovered 3 triangular impressions in the ground where the object had rested. More significantly, Geiger counters detected elevated radiation levels at those precise locations. Though the British Ministry of Defense later attributed the incident to a distant lighthouse, the now famous Halt memo remains, a quiet record of a physical presence that left measurable nuclear traces behind. Shadows over Belgium, the Black Triangle Wave, 1989 to 1990. In late 1989, the skies over Belgium became unusually active. More than 1,000 witnesses reported massive black triangular objects, each marked by 3 bright lights beneath their dark frames. Rather than dismiss the reports, Belgian authorities chose transparency, working openly with scientists and researchers. The situation reached a climax on March 30th, 1990, when NATO radar systems detected an object performing extreme maneuvers. 2 F-16 fighter jets were dispatched. Repeated radar logs confirmed what instruments struggled to explain. The object accelerated from 240 kilometers per hour to 1,770 kilometers per hour, while changing altitude from 3,000 meters to near ground level in seconds. The estimated forces involved, around 40 Gs, would destroy any human aircraft and prove instantly fatal to any biological pilot. With confirmation from military radar, ground stations, and hundreds of eyewitnesses, the Belgian wave became one of the most compelling UFO cases in modern history, resistant to all conventional explanations. Into the modern age, the Tic Tac Encounter, 2004. As we enter the 21st century, surveillance systems grow sharper and the mysteries clearer. In 2004, during training exercises off the coast of California, radar aboard the USS Princeton detected objects descending from 80,000 feet to sea level in less than a second. 2 FA-18F Super Hornets were sent to investigate. Commander David Fravor encountered a smooth, white, oblong object, roughly 12 meters long, hovering above churning water. It had no wings, no exhaust, no visible means of propulsion. As Fravor descended to approach, the object mirrored his movements, then vanished in an instant. Seconds later, radar detected it 60 miles away, waiting at a predetermined rendezvous point, suggesting foreknowledge of military operations. Infrared footage later released and confirmed by the Pentagon in 2020 marked a turning point. UFOs were officially reclassified as UAPs, unidentified anomalous phenomena, and serious investigation began. When the visitor comes from the stars, 3 I/Atlas, 2025. The most profound shift occurred when the search expanded beyond Earth's atmosphere. In July 2025, an object known as 3 I/Atlas was detected, not by pilots, but by NASA's Deep Space Early Warning Systems. This was no fleeting radar echo. Its properties challenged natural explanation. Its orbit was perfectly straight, with an eccentricity of 6.14, like a projectile aimed directly at the solar system. Its speed, 58 kilometers per second, exceeded anything humans have ever built. Spectral analysis revealed an unusual chemical signature, carbon dioxide concentrations 16 times higher than typical comets, and the presence of nickel without iron, a separation rarely found in nature, but common in high-temperature industrial alloys. Even its behavior raised questions. Atlas approached along a path concealed by the dense star fields near the Milky Way's center and will remain hidden behind the sun at peak activity. These anomalies led Professor Avi Loeb of Harvard to propose a bold hypothesis that Atlas may represent ghost technology, an automated probe from an ancient civilization. The fact that modern science now debates such possibilities in peer-reviewed journals signals a profound transformation. UFOs have crossed the boundary from rumor into astrophysics. Now, as thoughts of 40G accelerations, forest radiation, and distant nickel alloys gently fade, allow a deep calm to settle over you. We are no longer solitary figures staring upward in doubt. We live in an age where even the deepest mysteries begin to leave numerical fingerprints. Let your breathing align with the slow, steady rhythm of space itself. And as your mind drifts into the welcoming darkness, remember, truth no longer presses upon you tonight. It becomes only a soft whisper, guiding you into rest beneath the quiet protection of an eternal halo. Night travelers, let your souls settle into the gentle warmth of the firelight. Tonight, we step softly along the fragile boundary between what we know and what we cannot yet explain. A threshold where humanity's boldest thoughts about extraterrestrial intelligence wait patiently to be understood. Allow your breathing to slow with each phrase, guiding you toward rest beneath the eternal glow of distant stars. Welcome to the Extraterrestrial Intelligence Hypothesis, messenger, or predator. Avi Loeb and the dignity of curiosity. In the long shadows cast by ignorance, humanity has always tried to name what it does not yet comprehend. Within the cautious halls of modern science, Professor Avi Loeb of Harvard University stands as a figure both controversial and deeply compelling. He is no idle dreamer. A former chair of Harvard's Department of Astronomy, Loeb is among the most prolific astrophysicists of our time, with more than 700 peer-reviewed scientific papers to his name. Why then would a scientist of such standing dare to entertain ideas that echo the language of science fiction? His answer is simple and quietly profound: the dignity of curiosity. Loeb argues that science can sometimes fall into intellectual conservatism, forcing every anomaly into familiar natural explanations before alternative possibilities are allowed to breathe. He defends the discussion of extraterrestrial technology not as belief, but as a pedagogical exercise, a disciplined thought experiment that sharpens our understanding, whether or not it proves correct. Loeb suggests we should not wait for a formal greeting from the stars. Instead, we should search for technosignatures, fragments of artificial debris, dormant probes, or abandoned machines from other civilizations drifting silently through our solar system. Through Project Galileo, he seeks to use advanced telescopes and sensors to observe what we currently label as UFOs. For Loeb, admitting that we may not be alone is not a fantasy, but an act of humility before a universe that has existed for 13.8 billion years. The Black Forest Theory. When silence is survival. Among the most unsettling explanations for cosmic silence is the Black Forest Theory. Popularized by author Liu Cixin and taken seriously by researchers including Avi Loeb, it offers a stark answer to an old question. Why, after more than a century of listening, have we heard nothing from the stars? In this view, the Milky Way is a dark forest at night. Every civilization is a cautious hunter, moving quietly among unseen dangers. Any sound, a radio signal, a message of peace, may reveal one's location. And in a universe where intentions can never be known with certainty, the safest strategy may be ruthless preemption. Eliminate potential threats before they grow strong enough to strike. If this theory is correct, the galaxy may be filled with life, yet bound together by silence. The strange objects that pass through our skies might not be friendly envoys, but discreet reconnaissance units, observing our nuclear arsenals and technological progress. They may simply be gathering data, deciding whether Earth is harmless or whether it must be erased to preserve the safety of the forest. The Zoo Hypothesis, Earth under observation. If the Black Forest is a vision of fear, the Zoo Hypothesis offers something quieter and perhaps more unsettling in its calm detachment. According to this idea, advanced civilizations have long been aware of humanity, but adhere to a strict non-interference principle, allowing us to develop on our own. From this perspective, Earth is a living exhibit in a vast galactic preserve. Our wars, inventions, and environmental struggles are observed from afar, carefully recorded but never interrupted. The UFOs we glimpse may be automated monitoring devices, much like the remote cameras biologists place in wilderness areas to study rare species. Some suggest that humanity is being evaluated, waiting to reach certain ethical and technological milestones before being welcomed into a broader cosmic community. Perhaps only when we resolve hunger, war, and environmental destruction will the observers step forward and acknowledge us openly. Post-biological intelligence and technological ghosts. One of the most far-reaching ideas proposed by Avi Loeb and other modern thinkers is that we may be searching for the wrong kind of life. In an ancient universe, biology itself may be only a brief phase. Loeb introduces the notion of ghost technology. Imagine a civilization that rose billions of years ago, achieved extraordinary technological mastery, and replaced its fragile biological forms with artificial intelligence and durable machines. Long after the civilization itself vanished, Its automated probes, self-replicating von Neumann machines, continued their mission of exploration. These entities might move silently through space, emitting no radio signals, because they no longer require electromagnetic communication. They could exist beneath icy crusts, drift through dark interstellar oceans, or endure for eons among asteroids, carrying the memories of a world long extinct. They are neither allies nor adversaries, only orphaned legacies, continuing a task assigned by creators who no longer exist. Criticism and the limits of skepticism. Naturally, Avi Loeb's ideas have not gone unchallenged. Critics such as Oxford astronomer Chris Lintott have dismissed them as misguided. Skeptics invoke the principle of Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is often the correct one. Most UFO sightings, they argue, can be attributed to rare natural phenomena, sensor errors, or misinterpretations. They caution against repeating an old habit, what some call the alien of the gaps, where unexplained events are attributed to external intelligence, much as ancient cultures once blamed the gods for lightning. Despite billions of cameras in human hands, no clear and indisputable evidence of extraterrestrial intelligence has yet been produced. And yet, persistent secrecy, classified files, and unexplained failures, such as space probes losing contact at critical moments, continue to trouble even the most cautious minds. One cannot help but wonder whether a heavier truth lies hidden behind the quiet authority of national security. Now, as thoughts of dark forests, silent observers, and orphaned machines gently fade, allow a deep calm to return. Perhaps we are children waiting for a greeting, or solitary travelers learning to read faint signals from the vast unknown. Whether these intelligences are cautious hunters or distant messengers, their elusive presence has given humanity a rare gift: the courage to doubt and the freedom to imagine. Let these questions not disturb your rest. Instead, accept them as a quiet offering from the universe itself. Let your soul find peace in uncertainty and drift, untroubled, into serenity. Night travelers, tonight we will not only listen to the bold ideas of Professor Avi Loeb, but also to the calm and steady voices that question them. Let us begin with counter-arguments, the light of skepticism. You do not need to analyze or retain any complex logic. Simply allow these reflections to flow like a soft stream of light, carrying your thoughts gently into the quiet vastness, where reason and evidence patiently illuminate the mystery of UFOs and alien life. The aliens of the void. Throughout humanity's long effort to understand the world, one instinct has remained unchanged. When confronted with the unexplained, we often fill the empty space with something powerful and familiar. Thousands of years ago, when storms ravaged the seas, the ancient Greeks blamed the anger of Poseidon, for they had no knowledge of atmospheric pressure or meteorology. Philosophers later called this tendency the god of the gaps, placing divine forces where human understanding ends. In the 21st century, skeptics such as Professor Neil deGrasse Tyson argue that the god of the gaps has merely taken on a modern form, the alien of the gaps. When people encounter towering pyramids or fast-moving lights in the sky, instead of calmly admitting uncertainty, many leap to a more emotionally satisfying conclusion. It must be aliens. Science, however, reminds us that not knowing is not a weakness. It is a vital and productive state. Ignorance is not failure. It is an invitation to gather better data. Declaring an unexplained light to be an extraterrestrial spacecraft simply because it remains unidentified is a step that careful science is unwilling to take. A mirror reflecting humanity's anxieties. When we examine the long history of UFO reports, a subtle pattern begins to emerge. The shapes and behaviors of these objects often reflect the technologies and fears of the era in which they are reported. In the 19th century, as airships captured the public imagination, sightings described large metallic craft with wings, propellers, and visible structures. machines that mirrored the engineering dreams of the time. By 1947, after Kenneth Arnold likened the motion of strange objects to discs skipping across water, newspapers coined the phrase flying saucers. Almost immediately, reports of disc-shaped objects surged worldwide, even though Arnold himself had described shapes closer to sickles than plates. The psychosocial hypothesis suggests that UFOs function as modern myths, shaped by collective anxiety, first nuclear war, then the Cold War, and later the space race. We gaze into the sky and project our hopes and fears onto the unknown, seeing either benevolent messengers or ominous invaders, impersonators in plain sight. Official investigations, from the U.S. Air Force's Project Blue Book to studies conducted in the United Kingdom and France, have reached a sobering conclusion. Approximately 80 to 90% of UFO sightings can be explained by natural or human-made phenomena. Astronomical confusion. Venus remains the most frequent culprit. Its intense brightness near the horizon often creates the illusion of a hovering or pursuing object. Spy balloons. The Roswell incident of 1947, after decades of speculation, was ultimately linked to Project Mogul, a classified balloon program designed to detect Soviet nuclear tests. The alleged alien bodies reported years later were identified as crash test dummies used in parachute experiments. Optical phenomena. Sundogs, caused by sunlight refracting through ice crystals in the atmosphere, can produce vivid halos and colored shapes. Such effects may explain dramatic historical accounts like the Nuremberg event of 1561, where witnesses described apparent aerial battles. Modern technology. In recent years, Starlink satellites, stealth aircraft, and advanced drones have fueled a new wave of sightings. Many modern drones can maneuver in coordinated formations, abruptly extinguish their lights, or interfere with radar systems, creating the impression of technology far beyond human capability. Critique of 3I/Atlas, nonsense on stilts. The appearance of the interstellar object, 3I/Atlas in 2025, reignited speculation when Professor Avi Loeb proposed a possible artificial origin. Yet his colleagues were quick to apply skeptical scrutiny. Oxford astronomer Professor Chris Lintott dismissed the idea as utterly nonsense, famously describing it as nonsense on stilts. Other astronomers noted that Atlas's apparent proximity to planets such as Mars or Jupiter does not imply intent. In hindsight, any orbit can be framed as meaningful if enough coincidences are selected. Critics also challenged the statistical reasoning behind the claim, arguing that multiplying small probabilities to produce dramatic numbers resembles p-hacking, a practice where statistics are bent to support a preferred conclusion. Chemically, Atlas's unusual composition, rich in carbon dioxide and containing nickel without iron, is indeed rare, but not evidence of artificial construction. Scientists suggest it may have formed billions of years ago in the galaxy's thick disk, under conditions very different from those of our solar system. Observations from the James Webb Space Telescope further confirmed classic signs of cometary activity, weakening the case for a manufactured object. The silence of the data ocean. Perhaps the most compelling argument against extraterrestrial visitors remains the silence itself. The CD Institute analyzed more than 21 terabytes of data from Atlas and detected no artificial signals. While Avi Loeb invokes the Black Forest theory to explain why civilizations might remain hidden, skeptics favor a simpler interpretation: silence, because no one is there. Moreover, in a world where billions of people carry high-resolution cameras in their pockets, we still lack a single clear and indisputable photograph of an alien craft. The evidence remains distant points of light and grainy images, phenomena that scientists largely attribute to sensor limitations, infrared artifacts, or human misinterpretation. Now, as thoughts of temperature inversions, statistical bias, and spy balloons gently recede, allow a calm sense of clarity to settle in. Skepticism is not a barrier to truth, but a steady lamp lighting the path toward it. These counterarguments do not deny wonder. They remind us that the search for meaning requires balance, a heart open to possibility, and a mind grounded in reason. We have listened to the debates of scientists. Now, let us step quietly behind the curtain and explore what lies in the shadows. Welcome to Conspiracy Theories Behind the Curtain. You do not need to analyze or memorize anything. Allow these stories to flow like a soft stream of light, carrying your thoughts gently into the vastness. Let your breathing slow with each sentence, easing you toward rest beneath the eternal halo of the stars. The Sanctuary of Secrets, Area 51. Our journey begins in the barren desert of Nevada, where a military installation known as Area 51 has become the heart of some of the most enduring UFO legends in modern history. For decades, the United States government refused even to acknowledge its existence. On official maps, it was a blank space, a silent void protected by electronic sensors and armed guards. It was not until 2013, through the Freedom of Information Act, that Area 51 was formally acknowledged. Yet to many, that admission felt less like a revelation and more like another carefully placed mask. According to conspiracy theories, the site is not merely a testing ground for experimental aircraft such as the U-2 or the A-12. It is believed instead to be a vast repository, storing the remnants of extraterrestrial crashes. In 1989, a man named Bob Lazar ignited global controversy by claiming he had worked at a nearby facility known as S4, close to Lake Papoose. There, he said, he studied the propulsion system of a recovered flying saucer. Lazar spoke of a substance called Element 115, capable of generating its own gravity and bending space-time itself. Mainstream science rejected his claims, yet questions linger. Why are the runways at Area 51 over 12,000 feet long? Why were satellites forbidden from capturing detailed images of the site for so many years? Could it be that beneath the desert sand lie machines dormant for millennia, products of an intelligence millions of years more advanced than our own? Extraterrestrial officers and the hack of the century. In 2001, a British hacker named Gary McKinnon carried out what he described as a personal search for truth, penetrating computer systems belonging to NASA and the Pentagon. What he claimed to have discovered fueled one of the most unsettling conspiracy theories of all. McKinnon said he encountered references to non-terrestrial officers and a list of spacecraft absent from any known military registry. Among the names was the USS Hillenkoetter, a vessel allegedly named after the first director of the CIA, an individual who had publicly stated that UFOs were real and deliberately concealed. Conspiracy theorists imagine a world divided in two: one civilization living openly on Earth, and another, a breakaway civilization, operating beyond public knowledge, having mastered anti-gravity and space travel. If McKinnon's account were true, then some of the lights we see crossing the night sky might not belong to visitors from elsewhere, but to a hidden branch of humanity itself. 3I/Atlas and the Trojan horse hypothesis. When the interstellar object known as 3I/Atlas appeared in 2025, it brought no greeting and no signal, only silence. Professor Avi Loeb of Harvard posed a troubling question. How could a natural object follow an orbit so precise that it passes near Venus, Mars, and Jupiter with a probability of only 0.005%? Within conspiracy circles, Atlas is not a comet, but a piece of ghost technology, a probe disguised as a natural body. Its chemical composition deepened suspicion. Observations from the James Webb Space Telescope detected nickel but no iron, an unusual separation in nature, yet common in industrial refinement. More unsettling still is the timing. On October 29, 2025, when Atlas reaches perihelion and becomes most active, it will be completely hidden behind the sun from Earth's viewpoint. This creates a perfect observational blind spot, an ideal shadow for a man-made object to maneuver or deploy smaller probes without detection. Some ask quietly, are we witnessing a reconnaissance mission planned billions of years ago? Immaculate Constellation and the Wall of Law. Recent disclosures surrounding a project known as Immaculate Constellation have added new cracks to the Pentagon's veil of secrecy. This program is believed to be a United States access program tasked with collecting and isolating satellite imagery of unidentified anomalous phenomena before it enters conventional intelligence channels. Witnesses describe infrared footage showing disc-shaped objects, some reportedly hundreds of meters wide, moving smoothly through cloud layers. When pressed for answers, intelligence agencies invoked the National Security Act of 1947, issuing a classic GLOMAR response, neither confirming nor denying the program's existence. Why would a mere piece of ice from interstellar space demand the same secrecy as a nuclear asset? Some point to the incident involving the MAVEN probe near Mars in October 2025. As it prepared to capture high-resolution images of Atlas, its systems suddenly went dark. Could Atlas possess an active defense system, perhaps using electromagnetic interference to protect itself from observation? The dark forest and the silence of the hunters. To explain the absence of open contact, conspiracy theorists often turn to the dark forest theory. Imagine the universe as a vast, lightless forest, where every civilization moves like a cautious hunter. Any sound, a radio signal, a broadcast, could draw the attention of something stronger. In this view, objects such as Atlas or Oumuamua are not messengers, but scouts. They do not speak, they observe. Humanity's century of radio and television broadcasts has been like lighting a blazing torch in the depths of that forest. And now, perhaps, others have noticed the flame. As the images of Area 51, hidden fleets, and the silent passage of Atlas slowly fade from your thoughts, allow a gentle calm to settle in. We may be children just beginning to sense the scale of a secret-filled galaxy, yet it is our skepticism and our curiosity that define us. Whether UFOs belong to another intelligence or to a hidden chapter of our own future, they remind us that the search for meaning has only begun. Take a slow, deep breath. Let your chest gently expand and feel a profound stillness settle into every cell of your body. Imagine yourself resting upon a vessel of the mind, drifting across a velvety black ocean of space, where the light of distant stars weaves an eternal tapestry of reality. The truth is out there. For many, this phrase has become almost sacred, echoing in the memories of those once drawn into the world of the X-Files. To most people, UFOs are far more than a technical label adopted by the U.S. Air Force in 1953 to replace the term flying saucers. They are symbols of our oldest curiosity, mirrors reflecting both fear and hope that we may not be alone in the vast Milky Way, a colossal spiral that has endured for more than 13 billion years. The story that captured the world's imagination began on a bright afternoon in 1947, when pilot Kenneth Arnold reported seeing 9 unusual objects moving like discs skipping across water. From that single description, the press coined the phrase flying saucer, and almost overnight, a global fascination took hold. People began to look skyward with new eyes. The stars were no longer silent ornaments, but possible visitors, bearers of messages, or perhaps of warnings. Why is it that even today, in an age when science can photograph black holes and decode the human genome, UFOs continue to captivate us so deeply? Perhaps because they remain among the last true mysteries. Although the Pentagon now refers to them as UAPs, unidentified anomalous phenomena, in an effort to reduce stigma, their essence remains unchanged. They challenge our understanding and compel us to ask, are our senses misleading us, or is the universe quietly speaking in a language we have yet to learn? That sense of wonder has only intensified with the arrival of interstellar visitors such as Oumuamua in 2017, and more recently, 3I/Atlas in 2025. Atlas is unlike any cosmic object previously observed. It enters the solar system like a celestial bullet, traveling at an astonishing 58 kilometers per second, with a record-breaking eccentricity of 6.14. Scientists estimate it may be up to 14 billion years old, nearly as old as the universe itself. Imagine an entity that witnessed the birth of the first galaxies now passing silently by our cosmic doorstep. To an ordinary observer, the details surrounding Atlas feel deeply unsettling. The James Webb Space Telescope detected nickel vapor in its surrounding halo, yet no trace of iron. In nature, iron and nickel are inseparable companions. Their division typically occurs only through industrial refinement. This raises a troubling question. Are we observing a simple block of ice or something engineered, perhaps a superalloy shell shaped by intelligence? Adding to the unease is the silence of official institutions. As Atlas approaches Mars in October 2025, NASA's MAVEN probe reportedly goes silent at a critical moment. Soon after, the CIA invokes the National Security Act of 1947, issuing a so-called GLOMAR response, refusing to confirm or deny the existence of any related records. Why would a fragment of ice require protection equal to that of nuclear secrets? Such moments have fueled speculation about hidden programs, from a secret space force to initiatives like Immaculate Constellation, said to collect UAP imagery beyond public view. Many of us prefer to imagine extraterrestrial civilizations as benevolent guides, cosmic teachers who might rescue humanity from environmental collapse or nuclear conflict, much like Klaatu in The Day the Earth Stood Still. Yet Professor Avi Loeb of Harvard offers a quieter, more somber possibility, what he calls ghost technology. Perhaps UFOs are not visitors at all, but automated probes, ancient relics left behind by civilizations long extinct, still faithfully carrying out their final instructions. Our fascination also arises from a deep internal conflict. We fear the idea known as the dark forest, or black jungle theory, where every civilization hides like a hunter in the shadows, ready to strike at any sign of exposure. And yet, we long to be acknowledged, to graduate from this cosmic wilderness and take our place among the stars. Every unexplained radar contact reported by Nimitz pilots, every smooth, candy-shaped tic-tac object accelerating at forces beyond human tolerance, quietly reminds us of how small we truly are. Now, as the vessel of your thoughts drifts deeper into the dark frontier, allow a sense of calm to wash over you. UFOs, whether they are atmospheric illusions, classified technologies, or distant messengers, have already fulfilled their most important purpose, awakening the human imagination. Let your breathing fall into rhythm with the slow pulse of the cosmos, guiding you gently into sleep beneath the eternal halo of the stars. Whether the truth rests in sealed archives or glimmers among the clouds of Jupiter, for this moment, the only truth that matters is your peaceful rest. Are you still there, night travelers? It is perfectly fine if you have already drifted into sleep. And if you are still awake, allow me to guide you a little deeper into one of the great enigmas of the 21st century. Tonight, we turn our attention to 3I/Atlas, a silent interstellar visitor entering our solar system with properties that seem to defy every astronomical model we have known. Welcome to the first chapter of this journey, the A11PL3Z spot, and the fateful night in Chile. The first whispers from the darkness. Our story begins on the quiet night of July 1st, 2025. Picture an astronomer named Edward seated before a softly glowing computer screen in Rio Hurtado, Chile. Outside, the telescope dome opens toward the cold, pristine skies of the Andes. His work is usually routine, tracking faint moving points of light, cross-checking them against catalogs of known asteroids, marking them as identified, and moving on. But that night was different. The Atlas system, short for Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, Earth's early warning shield, issued an alert that did not belong. A faint speck appeared on Edward's screen, assigned the random designation A11PL3Z. When he examined the velocity data, his breath caught. The object was moving far too fast to be bound by the sun's gravity. Astronomers measure orbital shape using a number called eccentricity. Any object orbiting the sun should have a value below 1. Yet A11PL3Z, later renamed 3I/Atlas, displayed an astonishing eccentricity of 6.14, the highest ever recorded. It dwarfed previous interstellar visitors, Oumuamua at 1.2 and Borisov at 3.36. This was no gentle ellipse. Its path was almost a straight line, like a cosmic bullet aimed directly through our solar system. The traveler hidden in light. The arrival of 3I/Atlas was not as sudden as it first appeared. Later investigations by independent astronomers, including Sam Dean, revealed something unsettling. The object had been visible weeks earlier, as far back as mid-May and June of 2025, in data from powerful surveys like the Zwicky Transient Facility and NASA's TESS telescope. Yet it went unnoticed. How could such an object remain effectively invisible? The answer lies in its path. For weeks, 3I/Atlas traveled directly across the densest star fields near the Milky Way's galactic center. Against the overwhelming brilliance of billions of background stars, it blended perfectly into the noise, hidden in plain sight, shielded by light itself. Was this merely an extraordinary coincidence of celestial mechanics? Or was it deliberate concealment? If Atlas were an artificial reconnaissance probe, approaching from the direction of the galactic core would be a masterful tactic, exploiting natural interference to slip past detection until it was already deep within the solar system. The velocity of a technological ghost. As Edward and his colleagues refined their measurements, another disturbing fact emerged. Atlas was moving at 58 to 61 kilometers per second, roughly 245,000 kilometers per hour. That is twice Earth's orbital speed, and 4 times faster than Voyager 1, the fastest human-made object ever launched. At such velocity, Atlas could circle Earth in just 11 minutes, or travel from Earth to the Moon in under 2 hours. With today's chemical rocket technology, interception is impossible. Humanity can do nothing but watch, peering through lenses, as this visitor passes by, untouchable and indifferent. What intrigued Professor Avi Loeb of Harvard was not only the speed, but the object's uncanny stability. Ordinary comets wobble as they approach the sun. Sublimating ice creates jets that push them off course, a phenomenon known as non-gravitational acceleration. Famous comets like Hale-Bopp or Borisov showed clear deviations as they heated up. Atlas did not. Its trajectory remained strikingly precise, almost rigid, as if guided by continuous corrections. To Loeb, this raised a provocative possibility. If Atlas were a spacecraft, then what we were witnessing was not drifting, but steering. A great voyage with a 0.005% chance. Further analysis revealed a pattern too precise to ignore. Atlas's journey through the solar system appeared anything but random. Its path brought it into close proximity with several key planets in sequence. The odds of a naturally wandering object passing so near Venus, Mars, and Jupiter are estimated at just 0.005%, 1 chance in 20,000. Imagine throwing a dart from several light years away and striking the most important targets on a moving map. The path is eerily optimized. It passes Mars at just 0.19 astronomical units in early October 2025. It reaches perihelion on October 29, 2025, at 1.36 astronomical units between the orbits of Earth and Mars. It then approaches Venus at 0.65 astronomical units, before offering Jupiter a final close pass of 0.36 astronomical units in March 2026. Even more unusual, Atlas travels in a retrograde orbit, moving opposite to the direction of every planet. For a reconnaissance mission, this choice would be ideal, maximizing observational angles while maintaining extreme relative speed, making interception by any local civilization exceedingly difficult. The geochemical nightmare and the superalloys. When humanity's most powerful instruments, the James Webb Space Telescope and Hubble, turned their gaze toward Atlas, the findings were anything but reassuring. Webb revealed that Atlas's coma was dominated by carbon dioxide at levels 16 times higher than any comet observed at a similar distance. Water, normally the defining component of a comet, was merely secondary. Atlas was not a dirty iceberg. It was something far stranger. Then came the true shock. Spectroscopy detected bright nickel vapor within the coma, yet no iron whatsoever. In nature, iron and nickel are born together in stellar furnaces and are never fully separated. Such separation requires advanced industrial processes. This raised an unsettling question. Were we observing a natural object, or a structure made from nickel-based superalloys, materials designed to withstand extreme heat, much like those used in jet engines and spacecraft? And finally, there was its color. Atlas began as a deep red, dust aged by billions of years of cosmic radiation. As it neared the sun in September 2025, it shifted suddenly to a vivid green. At perihelion, it transformed again, glowing an intense blue. These transitions were far too abrupt and dramatic to fit known comet behavior, hinting at internal processes responding actively to solar heat. And so, night travelers, as this silent object continues its passage, the questions it raises drift with us. Quiet, unresolved, and deeply human. The observation gap and the CIA's secret veil. On October 29th, 2025, at the very moment when 3I/Atlas reaches what many believe to be its peak operational phase, another unsettling coincidence unfolds. From Earth's perspective, the object slips entirely behind the sun. This creates a perfect observation gap, a curtain of blinding light in which no ground-based telescope nor even space observatories like Hubble or James Webb can see. It is an ideal shadow, one in which a man-made device could conceal maneuvers or deploy smaller probes without leaving a trace. Professor Avi Loeb raises a quiet but profound question. Could Atlas be executing an inverted orbit maneuver, a propulsion technique applied at maximum orbital velocity, where even a small thrust produces a dramatic change in kinetic energy? Such a maneuver would allow an interstellar object to shed speed and quietly insert itself into a stable orbit within the solar system. The sense that something larger may be unfolding deepens when we examine the MAVEN probe incident near Mars, also in October 2025. At the precise millisecond when MAVEN was positioned to capture its highest resolution image of Atlas, the probe abruptly shut down and entered a safe state. NASA attributed the event to a technical malfunction combined with solar activity. Yet no other spacecraft orbiting Mars reported similar disturbances that day. Soon afterward, requests for information were met with a familiar phrase. The CIA issued a GLOMAR response, neither confirming nor denying the existence of any records related to 3I/Atlas, citing the National Security Act of 1947. One is left to wonder, why would a so-called piece of ice from interstellar space demand a level of secrecy reserved for nuclear command systems? And could a program such as Immaculate Constellation, designed to isolate and compartmentalize UAP data, have uncovered evidence suggesting that Atlas is not as natural as it appears? The Unchained Traveler, breaking the rules we trust. Throughout history, humanity has tried to tame the cosmos by naming its laws. But in July 2025, 3I/Atlas arrived as a question mark large enough to unsettle them all. Its first defiance lies in its orbit. With a hyperbolic eccentricity of 6.14, Atlas shattered every previous record. Planets follow nearly perfect circles. Even the wildest comets rarely exceed an eccentricity of 3. Atlas's path is almost a straight line, a projectile aimed through the solar system rather than a wanderer captured by gravity. Its speed only deepens the unease. Entering at 61 kilometers per second, Atlas moved twice as fast as Earth and 4 times faster than Voyager 1, humanity's swiftest creation. At that velocity, it could circle Earth in 11 minutes. Astronomers at Oxford estimate its age to lie between 7.6 and 14 billion years, suggesting it may have formed alongside the earliest galaxies, long before our sun ignited. Yet what truly captured Professor Loeb's attention was not speed, but control. Natural objects passing near the sun are tugged by gravity and disturbed by sublimating ice, producing erratic non-gravitational acceleration. Atlas showed none of this. From May to October 2025, its trajectory remained astonishingly stable, deviating by only about 1.5 kilometers per day, compared with the 100-kilometer shifts seen in ordinary comets like 2I/Borisov. Traveling in a retrograde orbit, opposite the motion of all planets, it followed a path ideal for observation, yet impossible for interception. A geochemical nightmare, when carbon dioxide rains. When the James Webb Space Telescope finally examined Atlas, scientists expected the familiar signature of water, the defining trait of a comet. Instead, they encountered something profoundly unsettling. Atlas's coma was dominated by carbon dioxide at concentrations 16 times higher than any comet previously observed. The ratio of CO2 to water reached 8:1. In our solar system, water accounts for nearly all cometary volatiles. Atlas was different, dry, chemically stark, and strangely active. The absence of common carbon chain compounds placed it among the most chemically unusual objects ever recorded. Even more puzzling, Atlas began intense outgassing at 6.4 astronomical units, far beyond Jupiter, where temperatures should freeze nearly everything solid. Carbon dioxide's lower sublimation point offers only a partial explanation. Atlas brightened 5-fold, far exceeding the predictions of physical models. Such behavior hints at an internal energy source or a mechanical response to sunlight rather than passive heating alone. The nickel mystery, signature of technology or nature's exception. The most haunting discovery lay not in ice, but in metal. Spectroscopic observations from the Very Large Telescope in Chile revealed nickel vapor within Atlas's coma. While metals can appear in comets near the sun, Atlas released nickel while still between Mars and Jupiter, a region far too cold for such processes. Even more troubling was what was missing. There was no iron. In nature, iron and nickel are born together in stellar furnaces. Their ratios remain remarkably constant across planets, asteroids, and comets alike. To separate them requires deliberate industrial refinement. Professor Loeb argues that high nickel concentrations without iron resemble the heat-resistant superalloys used in human jet engines and spacecraft hulls. This raises an unsettling thought. Could the so-called coma be something closer to exhaust? Could Atlas be a superalloy structure, slowly eroding under solar radiation? Behind the curtain and the silence of the hunter. As Atlas slips behind the sun on October 29, 2025, it enters a moment of perfect invisibility. Loeb describes this as an opportunity for a reverse solar Oberth maneuver, using engines at peak velocity to alter its orbit without detection. It is a maneuver known to engineers, not to comets. The mystery deepened when the Maven probe went dark at the most critical instant, and secrecy soon followed. Once again, the Glomar response was invoked. One question lingers in the quiet. Why would a comet demand the same secrecy as nuclear command codes? Through the lens of the Black Forest theory, Atlas's silence speaks volumes. Despite SETI collecting over 21 terabytes of data, no signal was found. In this view, silence is not absence, it is caution. Atlas did not arrive to greet us. It came to observe, to measure, and perhaps to decide how humanity responds when the universe sends something we cannot explain. Now, as notions of a 6.14 eccentricity, an 8-to-1 ratio of carbon dioxide, and the unsettling image of nickel superalloys slowly fade from your thoughts, allow a deep sense of calm to settle over you. We may never know with certainty what 3I/Atlas truly was, yet its brief passage has already accomplished something profound. It has permanently awakened humanity's imagination. The interstellar object known as Atlas is like an impossibly rare manuscript drifting across a reading desk in an ancient, endless library. It lingers just long enough for us to glimpse the texture of time itself, leaving behind a few crimson lines of nickel-like script we cannot yet decipher, before it is quietly returned to the deepest archives of the galaxy, a place humanity may never reach. You have just witnessed 3I/Atlas, a singular visitor we may encounter only once in a lifetime. In the moments ahead, we will move deeper into the bold interpretations of Professor Avi Loeb and the veils of secrecy that governments appear eager to maintain. Welcome to 3I/Atlas, the technology of ghosts and the Iron Curtain of government. Avi Loeb, a portrait of science and the dignity of curiosity. In the vast darkness of the unknown, humanity has always sought to impose order, to define laws that make the universe feel familiar. Within the cautious rhythms of mainstream science, Professor Avi Loeb of Harvard University stands out as a figure both controversial and deeply compelling. He is no careless dreamer. He is one of the most productive astrophysicists in history, the author of more than 700 peer-reviewed papers, and a former chair of Harvard's Department of Astronomy. Why would someone of such stature risk professional standing to speak openly about extraterrestrial technology? Loeb argues that science itself can fall victim to intellectual conservatism, a habit of forcing every anomaly into comfortable, familiar explanations. He suggests that rather than waiting for a greeting from the stars, humanity should search for technosignatures, fragments of artificial debris, autonomous probes, or abandoned satellites from civilizations long past that may drift through our solar system. For Loeb, the idea that we are not alone is not fantasy, but an expression of humility before a universe that has existed for nearly 14 billion years. The hypothesis of ghost technology. When 3I/Atlas appeared in July 2025, with its unprecedented eccentricity of 6.14, it challenged every conventional astronomical model. In response, Avi Loeb proposed a concept both elegant and unsettling: ghost technology. Imagine a civilization that reached extraordinary technological heights billions of years ago. It created autonomous machines, artificial intelligences designed to endure across vast cosmic distances. When that civilization eventually faded into silence, its probes continued onward, faithfully executing their final instructions: to observe, to record, to endure. Loeb notes that Atlas may be between 7.6 and 14 billion years old, suggesting it could predate our sun by billions of years. If Atlas is technological in origin, it would be an orphaned legacy, a messenger from minds that no longer exist. It moves through the solar system without broadcasting radio signals, either because it has evolved beyond electromagnetic communication or because it practices deliberate silence in a universe that may reward caution. The reconnaissance route and the meaning of probability. What surprised Professor Loeb most was not merely Atlas's speed of 61 kilometers per second, but the geometry of its journey. Orbital analyses revealed that Atlas made remarkably close approaches to Venus, Mars, and Jupiter. The probability of a random interstellar object passing all three planets in such a manner is estimated at 0.005%. In statistical terms, this is a striking result, suggesting intentional design rather than chance. Adding to the mystery, Atlas travels in a retrograde orbit, moving opposite to the rotation of all the planets. From a reconnaissance perspective, this is ideal. Its immense relative speed renders interception impossible with human technology, while allowing it to observe planetary atmospheres and technological signatures from multiple angles, gathering information with remarkable efficiency. The Maven Incident, when humanity's eye went dark. Speculation intensified when Atlas approached Mars in October 2025. This should have been a defining moment, as NASA's Maven probe was positioned to capture its most detailed images yet. Instead, at the most critical instant, Maven abruptly entered safe mode, losing contact. NASA attributed the event to a technical malfunction compounded by mild solar activity. Yet independent analysts noted an unsettling detail. No other spacecraft orbiting Mars experienced any comparable disturbance that day. Did Maven observe something it was never meant to record? Or did Atlas activate an electromagnetic defense to preserve its anonymity? The decision to release only a single blurred image from the Perseverance rover's navigation camera, rather than high-resolution data from HiRISE, has reinforced the perception that an iron curtain has quietly descended. The CIA's Iron Curtain, an immaculate constellation. NASA's silence was soon echoed by the intelligence community. On December 31, 2025, the CIA invoked the National Security Act of 1947, issuing a formal GLOMAR response, neither confirming nor denying the existence of any records related to 3I/Atlas. The agency stated that even acknowledging its interest could endanger national security. This raises a question that refuses to rest. Why would an interstellar piece of ice demand secrecy on the level of nuclear command systems? Leaked sources point to a special access program known as Immaculate Constellation, reportedly tasked with intercepting and isolating all sensitive UAP imagery before it enters standard communication channels. Professor Loeb suggests that such extraordinary secrecy implies more than routine scientific caution. It hints at the management of a potential threat, or knowledge capable of reshaping humanity's understanding of its place in the cosmos. Perhaps something metallic, structured, or communicative was detected. Perhaps the truth exists, quietly sealed away, beyond public reach. The Black Forest theory and the hunter's silence. To explain why 3I/Atlas maintained absolute radio silence, even as SETI gathered more than 21 terabytes of data, Professor Avi Loeb turned to what is known as the Black Forest theory. In this vision, the universe resembles a dark forest at night. Every civilization is a hunter, moving quietly, cautiously, aware that any sound may draw the attention of others. Stronger, colder, and far less forgiving. In such a place, silence is not emptiness, it is survival. For an advanced AI probe, the wisest strategy may be to reveal nothing at all. 3. I/Atlas may have chosen a trajectory concealed behind the bright clutter of the Milky Way's core, avoiding detection until the final moments. It did not arrive to greet us. It may have come to observe, to record humanity's nuclear footprint and sensing capabilities, compiling a report destined for its long-vanished ghost creators. Its silence was not absence, but the careful restraint of a seasoned observer. Take a slow, deep breath. Let your chest rise and fall, and feel a profound stillness flow through every cell of your body. Imagine yourself drifting on a quiet vessel of the mind, far removed from the noise of the world, venturing into the deepest reaches of the cosmos, where the light of distant stars is no more than a soft murmur from an eternal past. On December 19, 2025, 3I/Atlas made its closest approach to Earth, passing at a distance of 1.8 astronomical units. It slipped by like an unbound traveler, carrying a staggering velocity of 58 kilometers per second and a record eccentricity of 6.14, figures that strain and perhaps shatter traditional models of a natural comet. To scientists, Atlas became an epistemological riddle. Are our senses misleading us, or is the universe quietly sharing truths we are not yet equipped to hear? When we look back on the entire episode, a deep sense of humility settles in. Humanity, with a recorded civilization only a few thousand years old, dares to question an entity that may be 14 billion years in age, nearly as old as the universe itself. Atlas has existed since the first galaxies took shape. It has crossed millions of light years, witnessed the birth and death of countless suns, and then, almost impossibly, passed our window at the precise moment we learned to see it. But was it truly coincidence? This is where the unsettling ideas of Professor Avi Loeb begin to send a chill down the spine. He finds little comfort in randomness when the probability is just 0.005%. Atlas did not drift along a lazy curve. It executed a precise, grand tour, surveying Venus, Mars, and Jupiter with mathematical rigor. Why did it choose a route masked by the dense stellar fields near the galactic center, delaying detection until the final hours? And why, at its most critical point, perihelion on October 29, 2025, did it slip perfectly behind the sun from Earth's perspective, creating an ideal observational blind spot for stealth operations? As so often before, the truth seems hidden behind an iron curtain of silence. When Atlas approached Mars in October 2025, humanity's sharpest eye in the region, the MAVEN probe, unexpectedly went dark at the most crucial moment. NASA attributed the failure to a technical issue, yet no other satellite reported any disturbance. Soon after came the CIA's familiar GLOMAR response, neither confirming nor denying the existence of any Atlas-related files. Why would a fragment of interstellar ice demand a level of secrecy reserved for nuclear codes? Had the rumored Immaculate Constellation project captured images of something more? Perhaps an artificial structure, a nickel-free superalloy shell beneath that enigmatic blue halo? These questions draw us back through the long history of UFO fascination. From Kenneth Arnold's Flying Saucers in 1947 to the enduring mystery of Roswell, humanity has long wrestled with the idea that we may not be alone. Critics call it the alien of the gaps, invoking extraterrestrial intelligence to explain what science cannot yet resolve. But with Atlas, the gap feels unusually wide. Here is an object that burns no chemical fuel, emits no radio signal, yet maintains an astonishingly stable trajectory, drifting by only 1.5 kilometers per day, compared to the hundreds of kilometers typical of ordinary comets. Perhaps, as Avi Loeb suggests, we are encountering ghost technology. Atlas may be an orphaned relic, an autonomous probe from a civilization that vanished billions of years ago, still faithfully executing its creator's final instructions. In an ancient universe, biological life may have been only a brief chapter, a bridge toward machines and artificial minds that would carry the torch of exploration forward. We sent golden records aboard Voyager and silent messages on Pioneer, hoping someday to be heard. Perhaps Atlas is that reply, sent from a past so distant that we no longer share the language to understand it. Humanity's hunger for knowledge is powerful, and at times, deeply bittersweet. From our fragile blue marble, we strain to decode signals from an immense and indifferent darkness. We fear the black forest, that to speak too loudly is to invite destruction. Yet we also yearn to graduate from this cosmic zoo, to take our place in a wider galactic community. Atlas has come and gone, leaving behind 21 terabytes of silence and countless unanswered questions. It reminds us how young we are, how tentative our first attempts to read the universe truly remain. Now, as your mind's vessel drifts ever deeper into the frontier of night, allow a gentle calm to settle over you. 3. I/Atlas has left our cosmic library, but it has fulfilled its greatest purpose, awakening imagination and curiosity within us. The universe endures, vast, patient, and watchful, guiding travelers through time and space. Let the whispers of ages past soothe your thoughts. Picture Atlas as an ancient dandelion seed carried on galactic winds, transporting memory and possibility across oceans of darkness. Whether it was a natural wanderer or a relic of another intelligence, it remains part of the great story we are all, quietly, still writing. May you rest peacefully in the embrace of the forgiving night. The unseen universe is always there, holding you in its softest silence. Good night, night travelers.